dear friends, Madam Mahtab Bamji. We should learn so much from her. Even at this age, she is so enthusiastic and passionate and talking about nutrition, women empowerment, girls' education issues, and then how to enable nutrition at the doorsteps using the locally available materials. She not only preached, she actually practiced. And she is practicing, continue to practice in organizing programs and sensitizing the people, and then distribution of these nutritious products in that vicinity, I think near Narsapur, Medak district. So then I thought we should take the benefit of her experience and her perceptions, and with the Niti Aayog on Poshan Abhiyan, the major flagship program which has been launched by Government of India, and our CRU is assisting 3 southern states on these aspects, especially building the communication. I think on the day when during our discussions, one major point which came out was communication, behavioral change. So we have a specialized unit working and helping the states to develop the social behavioral change communication strategies, materials, tools, and so on and so forth. With this, I welcome you to NIRD&PR, to this beautiful campus, and I am sure we'll continue to have the benefit of your wisdom in the future years to come. So I welcome you, ma'am, and then I leave the floor to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reddy. It was indeed nice meeting you and talking about a subject which, as you say, about which I feel very passionately. And thank you for inviting me. I always look for opportunities to speak on the subject of nutrition. It's generally considered to be a not very elegant subject. For any country to develop, health is the most important determinant of national development. And for health, you have to have nutrition, healthy environment, and of course genetics also plays a role. Poverty, lack of awareness are the major contributors to the first two. Now, development is judged in several ways, mostly in 3 ways. One is economic development, human development, and environment protection. For economic development, GDP is generally used, but now there is so much controversy about GDP. But one parameter is ease of doing business. And in that, India has made very good progress between 2014 and 18. But when it comes to Human Development Index, which includes life expectancy, education, and per capita income, India is really a laggard. It's not progressing as well as it should. Even on environment, our performance needs much greater improvement. This is something which India needs to emulate. If it were really, otherwise we are building castles over foundation of straw. So these are really human development and environment are very important. I'm not saying economic development is not, it's very important. There is a lot of confusion on the definition of food security versus nutrition security. Many people, especially agriculture scientists, speak of nutrition security as having enough food, including macro and micronutrients. Macronutrients are carbohydrate, protein, and fat, and micronutrients are vitamins and minerals. And if you have that, they say nutrition security, which is not true. And food security is not having enough food grains at national level. Many administrators, if they have enough rice and wheat at national level, they feel there is food security in the country, which is not true. For food security, it means all people at all times should have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient and balanced diet. Nutrition security goes beyond food security. And for nutrition security, you have to have clean environment and healthcare outreach also. Without clean environment, hygienic environment, having enough food, even best of food, is of no use. Now today, India, which is a country in transition, is facing the double burden of pre-transition diseases, which is undernutrition and communicable diseases, And we are facing increasing problem of post-transition diseases, overweight, obesity, hypertension, diabetes. India is regarded as diabetes capital of the world. Suicides and accidents, they are frightening in teenagers. Nutrition and health also help not only physical but also mental health. And as I will show you, even post-transition diseases have a very close association with intrauterine malnutrition. Now, some of the areas of concern are India has one of the highest incidence of hunger and undernutrition in the world. At one time, we used to say the Asian enigma, that sub-Saharan African countries have better nutrition than Asian countries. This may not be altogether true today. Every third child is born with low birth weight, and that's where the problem starts. There is rapid rise in obesity, non-communicable diseases. India is the diabetic capital of the world. And when you look at diets, Indian diets are qualitatively deficient in micronutrients. Micronutrients being vitamins and minerals. That is, even if you have, when you have sufficient calories, there are very few households which have sufficient calories and not adequate protein. Quality is a different issue. But with adequate calories, you will still be markedly deficient in micronutrients, what is called hidden hunger. Because micronutrient deficiency is not shown in thinness or stunting, but it is shown in different ways. Now, Green Revolution is extremely helpful. One should not criticize it. Lots of problems. It has helped to produce cereals, but it has neglected pulses and millets. Dr. Ganga Prasad Rao used to tell me that the Green Revolution initially started with millets, but later the cereals took over. And millets got neglected, pulses got neglected, until recently we used to import. But today, thanks to the ingenuity of agriculture scientists and the farmer, we are producing enough food to feed our people. The problem lies with wastage and other inequality. Green Revolution was, however, resource intensive and has adverse impact on environment. It promoted monoculture and things like that. Now, this is another very worrisome thing. I'll show you some data if time permits. Over the years, intake of all the foods, including cereals, has come down in terms of recommended dietary allowance. So you can't say that we are having less activity and therefore we need. When you say recommended dietary allowance, that takes care of activity. When I joined NIRD, we used to say that we have enough, we are eating more cereals than we need to. Today that is not the case. All food groups have come down. Now, India is the top 3 producer of vegetables and milk, but intake is low because the farmer who produces can't afford to consume. He or she prefers to sell. Because, as I say, economic compulsion outweighs nutritional wisdom. Then the problem of wastage is huge. 25 to 30% of food is wasted. And the impact of climate, we are now beginning to feel, and it's going to get worse. Now, prevalence of common diseases, if you see, malnutrition has the highest, 46%. A lot of communicable disease incidence would come down if there was enough nutrition. Next is TB, and then the others. So nutrition really should receive the highest priority, though today we are concerned more about cancer and cardiovascular diseases, rightly so, I'm not against it, but we are not paying enough attention to nutrition. Nutrition gets subsumed under health. And when you talk of health, it's giving ORS or immunization, but not nutrition. So Indian diets, as I said, are qualitatively deficient in micronutrients, particularly iron, vitamin A, vitamin B2, folic acid, B12, and in recent years we have started worrying about vitamin D. At one time we used to think there is enough sunlight, Why should Indians be vitamin D deficient? But now I'm sure if I'm vitamin D deficient, I'm B12 deficient, but it's something which is amazing. And within a family, is the dietary deprivation is more preschool children and pregnant and lactating women. Women invariably eat least. Though I must tell you that national NNMB surveys have not shown these gender difference. Though some surveys have shown, NNMB surveys have not shown gender difference. And time show reduction in intake of all the food groups. As you see here, at one time cereal intake was more, but it has come down. Now you see, GLV is green leafy vegetable. It's so easy to grow and consume. Why should the intake of GLV be so low? It's lack of awareness. Pulse intake was always low, and it has gone up, but everything is below what is required, and it has come down, except this roots and tubers. Now you see, protein intake, calorie intake, calcium intake, iron intake, all the vitamins, the intake is coming down. To add insult on injury, we have many food taboos. Like pregnant women should not eat papaya. This is something which is not confined to our area, it is all over. Perhaps because raw papaya is added to tenderize, so they feel bacha gal jayega, or something like that. Then they don't eat banana because they say banana tree fruits only once. So if we eat banana, we'll have only one child. There are many such superstitions. Then WHO has provided some guidelines for infant and child feeding, like breastfeeding should start from first day. When I first started my rural work, they used to throw away 3 days of milk saying chedipan. Colostrum is extremely rich in antibodies and in vitamin A. That's the best milk, and they used to discard it. But now, this is not happening. At least in Telangana, most hospitals, even DIs know that breastfeeding should start from first day. But where the problem lies is delayed introduction of complementary feeding. For 1 year, they don't give complementary food, and even if they give, thoda dal chatao, thoda annam pravesham karo, but that's not feeding. Then there are faulty cooking hacks. They cook rice in excess water and throw away ganji. But this ganji is rich in B complex vitamins and minerals. At one time in the village, they started calling me Ganji Amma because I used to say, don't throw away ganji. Then they used to cut the vegetables and wash. When you cut the vegetables and wash, a lot of nutrients are lost. You should first wash the vegetables thoroughly and then cut. Now, amongst the micronutrient deficiency, iron deficiency anemia really is the biggest problem. A woman with 3 grams hemoglobin will look normal. She may be little pale, so said gori hai, fair hai. But she is not fair, she is pale. She is suffering from anemia. Iron deficiency problem has to a very large extent been sorted out with iodized salt, but still we find lot of hypothyroidism during pregnancy. I don't know why. B complex vitamins are B2 vitamin is one of the lowest. I must tell you that frank clinical symptoms like blindness due to vitamin A deficiency, we don't see. When I joined NIN, we used to see, but now we don't see. Angular stomatitis, glossitis, yes, we still, B complex deficiency we see. But what is not recognized is vitamin B2, folic acid, B6 and B12 are needed to metabolize an amino acid called homocysteine. And homocysteine is an independent risk factor for cardiovascular disease. And here is an area where we need to do more research. How much of this relief that we see is due to B complex deficiency? As I said, B12 and B3 are emerging problems. Towards the turn of the century, UN came out with 10 what were known as Millennium Development Goals. India progressed in environment security in some respects, but India did not make enough. Somehow the problem of tackling malnutrition is a resistant problem. In the second one is end hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. This is the second goal. I've just listed some of the goals which are important. Now, recently, Niti Aayog did an analysis as to see how much progress different states of India have made in achieving the sustainable development. And as you see Sustainable Development Goal 5, overall, our performance is worse on that, gender equity. But India is bad in gender equity. Now, people working in that area will tell you more. But what is interesting is, Kerala has done the best. Kerala is the best. But even in Kerala, gender equity is only 50%. But most interesting is the case of Gujarat. Gujarat has done very well in achieving clean water and sanitation. It has done well in economic growth. But that economic growth impact on poverty, goal 1, is not seen. What does this mean? It means that economic growth has helped only the top people. What they call trickle-down effect. The trickle-down effect doesn't work. If you want the economic growth to help everybody, equity, then you have to have specific programs, safety net programs. And yet many economists cry foul when you talk of a safety net. And you see here the zero hunger performance of Gujarat, which is one of the best at. Even Maharashtra, Kerala has done well. So what this shows is that there is interstate difference and lot of difference between the goals with neglect of human development indicator goals. Now, one area in which India has progress is mortality. Mortality, I don't have time to show all those slides, but mortality has come down. Perinatal mortality, infant mortality, maternal, we have made better progress in bringing down mortality than in bringing down malnutrition. But here you see low birth weight, which is an indicator of malnutrition, that has, if anything, increased. Whereas infectious diseases have come down, birth asphyxia, other causes have come down. So our progress in terms of nutrition has been rather tardy. Now, God doesn't want children to be born with low birth weight. What is low birth weight due to? It is a clear case of neglect of women. Maternal malnutrition, maternal age, early marriage, under 17. Even today, so much of it is happening. Lack of antenatal care, infections, and poor women work till the end in the field. They don't get the rest. Though now in Telangana, a lot is being done to correct these. Consequences of low birth weight, high morbidity, mortality, LBW of children have 6 to 10 times higher perinatal mortality, adverse future pregnancy out, what is called multi-generation effect. A woman who gives birth to a girl child with low birth weight, she becomes stunted, she gives birth to a low, so it's a multi-generation effect. Early intervention, the intervention period should be within 2 years. In fact, when I was speaking to Barkas, he was saying it should be within 1 year. Impaired physical and mental performance. This is all expected. But what was not expected earlier is this last one, fetal origin of adult disease. A doctor called Barker, he found that women who had given birth during Dutch famine due to war, they were followed and they gave birth to low birth weight babies. And this is now called the Barker hypothesis. Those born with low birth weight due to intrauterine malnutrition are more susceptible to lifestyle associated diseases. Children with low birth weight, they better, if you are born in rags, you better stay in rags. If you move from rags to riches and your lifestyle changes to affluent lifestyle, sedentary lifestyle, wrong foods, you are sitting duck for getting cardiovascular diseases, metabolic syndrome and all that. So the distance between womb and tomb is greatly determined by how well your mother nourished you. Messages treat females with love and care throughout lifestyle. It has to be a lifestyle approach. You can't keep on pumping food in a pregnant woman when she's pregnant. That's no use. It has to be right from childhood through adolescence. Now, cost of undernutrition, as the earlier speaker said, is heavy. The 2 years, the 1,000 years from conception period is most critical. The economic cost is direct due to increased burden of healthcare, indirect due to loss of productivity. Childhood anemia alone costs 2.5%. But in this, we are not thinking about what about the human suffering. India has one of the lowest farm productivity in the world. And we keep blaming technology. But have you ever said that farmer is so malnourished? How can a malnourished farmer, farm woman or man be productive? That aspect is never considered. Malnutrition is costing poor countries. World Bank has said this. Economists have said this. That developing nations should position nutrition as central to development. There was one Copenhagen consensus between Nobel laureates economists. Investment in nutrition is one of the best buys that developing countries can make for economic growth. Today, politicians, planners, they are only talking about economic growth. In this, for instance, in this canvassing, you talk about job, job, job. Have they ever spoken about malnutrition or health problems? Not one. Bill Gates was asked if he can wave a magic wand to solve any global health problem, he would use it to end malnutrition. It's easy to understand. Almost every challenge we face in global health and development is made worse by malnutrition. It makes 6 children sicker, poor countries poorer, it robs young people of opportunity to reach their full potential, and it traps communities in cycles of poverty. So what is the way forward? The way forward is the 3 A's: awareness and access at affordable costs. Dr. Swaminathan, instead of affordable, he always says absorption. You may have access, the market will be full of mangoes or whatever you have, but at what price? Can the poor buy? Pulses costing more than 100 rupees. Can you buy? So when I speak to the villagers, fortunately they all have some small land. I said, you're lucky. You can grow some pulses and use it for your family. We can't, we have to buy. So you have to have a balanced diet and right feeding practices, sanitation and water, healthy lifestyle, and healthcare outreach. I think role of community health workers, now ASHA workers, can have a big role in this. Now, I mentioned that our diets are deficient in micronutrients, vitamins and minerals. So, what are the approaches? One is the pharmaceutical approach, where we have a program for anemia and folic acid supplementation for pregnant women. Program also includes adolescent girls, but it is non-existent, at least where we are working. For vitamin A deficiency, we have massive dose program. Some nutrition scientists feel that vitamin A supplementation program should be scrapped now, because we don't see that much blindness due to vitamin A. But our diets are low in vitamin A. Then we say, when you make khichdi is easy to make. And when they come for a training program, we make khichdi and give them. We don't give them tea. We give them ambali with a millet preparation that we make in our food processing center. As you see, pulse has not gone up. Though they are producing more pulse, they are not eating. Green leafy vegetables have jumped. And this was the only project where we saw an increase even in the consumption of other vegetables. They would say, yes, we are consuming, but what happened was they were replacing what they bought from outside. Milk consumption went up. And that is probably because government of Andhra Pradesh has got Inti Bare program. In an earlier study, we didn't see increase in GLV consumption. Homegrown vegetables replaced what was purchased. In one of our earlier studies, we also had control villages. And to our dismay, we found that over a period of 3 years, in the control villages, vegetable consumption came down. Because the price of vegetables in those days used to be very high. So even if homestead gardens are not increasing, they are protecting against decrease in consumption due to price rise. Nutrients in food, nutrition deficiency diseases, infant and child feeding practices, common infections, and food taboos. Mother's knowledge showed, whether it got translated in Practice, I'm not sure, but at least knowledge increased. Backyard poultry, they paid. But but they always want a little incentive. So we gave one cock as incentive. But now they are buying. We are not giving any incentive because we don't have money now. But as you see here, the intake, both the frequency as well as intake, we give only 4 or 5 birds. If you give 25 birds, they will sell the eggs. But if you give 4 or 5 birds, they will eat. In fact, my veterinary friend said, "Arey, with 4 or 5 birds, what can you do? You must give at least 25 birds. Then they will sell." Because I'm sorry to say, but the agriculture, people's thinking is only income. And at best, calories and protein, but not micronutrients. Though now they are beginning to. Now look at this effect on the malnutrition in children. But as you see, every monsoon, malnutrition increases. That is because of monsoon morbidity. If with improved sanitation, we can bring down monsoon morbidity, we can achieve a lot. But we have done, so by now, 3-4 studies, but somehow we are never able to bring down malnutrition below 20%. And that is because of affordability, income. If they cannot, we can tell so many things, but if they don't have money to buy, what will they do? So, to that extent, jobs are indeed important. This is a backyard nursery, and we distribute to the pregnant women. And this is a homestead garden with green leafy vegetables. And here is we give even fodder grass. We promote fodder grass for those who have cattle. With advocacy, education, and small incentive, even small and marginal farmers can be persuaded to diversify traditional crops to agriculture and nutrition. Nutritionally sensitive agriculture can have positive impact, but we have found that vegetable gardens alone will not have. You have to have a holistic approach of seeing that pulses are also produced and millets are also produced. It can't be vegetables alone cannot help with these small holdings. Priority areas are nutrition literacy at all levels. Role of media, school education we find very good. School children's minds are like sponges, and they demand, they go home and demand, and then they complain to us that the mother is not listening to them. Focus on girl child, special focus on 4,000 days, infant and child feeding, promote WHO guidelines. Examine the reasons of failure. Success of government. Why are the government feeding programs not succeeding? One of the reasons why ICDS program is not having impact is the 6 to 24 months, the little children they don't come to the center. Take home food is distributed. Make agriculture nutritionally, environmentally promotive, crop diversification, homestead production, and in prevent wastage. You know, in some countries, for instance, in Cuba, when the Soviet Union broke down, Cuba had no food. So they even used their payments to grow food. So hope this is urban agriculture is required. We have to tell them that yes, you have to do economic farming, but alongside do a little farming for your nutrition requirement for the home. Promote use of latrines and all that, sanitation. Community parties, identify the problem through focus group discussion. When we start a project, we first go to the community and discuss with them. In that discussion, you must make sure that few people don't dominate. Some of the quiet ones are more informed. Discuss probable solutions with them, ensure community participation, and mobilize funds. So the bottom line is leadership at all levels and governance to ensure convergence between bottom-up planning, make nutrition an important input and output parameter for all government programs that can directly or indirectly impact nutrition. Monitoring mechanism. National Nutrition Monitoring Bureau, which was running, which was a golden goose that laid golden eggs, it's been closed down. So now we will have no information on what is happening. Involve community scientists, health, nutrition, education, environment, and gender equity should be the indicators of national development and not trickle-down benefits of economic growth.
I have a small question. That is a demographic dividend and malnutrition. May I request you to comment on this?
Well, I look at it in two ways. Everybody says population. I agree. Population is a problem. But today, do you know that it is the top ones who are consuming maximum resources? Resource consumption is by the rich. But at the same time, you do have to control power. There are no two words about it. But southern states are doing extremely well. It's the northern states that are, if only we can get northern states to the level of southern states, we'll be achieving a lot.
Regarding this, yes, of course, you are very rightly what you have mentioned regarding the economic empowerment and other things, what is happening, and people are not focusing on the nutrition all across the country. But as you are aware that Niti Aayog has already, last year, March 2018, the way Poshan Abhiyan was implemented and things are going in this direction. Along with many more agencies, one I would like to mention here about UNICEF, how they are functioning, and of course we are also working along with UNICEF here in NIRD. There is a communication resource unit which focuses on the, one of the component is nutrition, and through the SBCC way. And here one very important thing is that we have analyzed some of, we did the research with some of the government funding, that they, though they spend number of things in different areas, but the kind of awareness which should be generated among the masses, which has not been spent according to the budget what is planned. So one aspect that we are working on this, and especially with CRU, with 3 states, that is Telangana, AP and Karnataka, we are giving a technical support along with UNICEF to these states on the this one subject, along with many more other things. Now here, one more important thing which you have highlighted about this convergence mode, I'm happy to share with you that we are working on this, because alone one ministry cannot achieve their target. So we are working on this, that health department, education, then WCD, water and sanitation, together when we work, definitely we can bring lot of changes in this, and that is what from NIRD we are working in this direction. And especially to begin with Telangana, we have already moved this. Apart from this, one more aspect like marriages and other things, young marriage, child marriage, and then how things are happening, the nutrition, the lack of nutrition, what we find among the teenagers and young mothers, lactating mothers. Yes, of course, though Telangana and AP they have done, or some southern part they have done better, but we need to work more in the other northern sectors, what they are doing it. Apart from that, the fund which is generated, allocated in every department, as I said, couple of departments, health and sanitation and this education, particularly the nodal agencies, the women and child development. Unless we get into the convergence mode, see that who all are there, especially taking into account the PRIs and the self-help groups who are at the, because we work from the Rural Development and Ministry of this RD&PR, so our focus is more on these dimensions. So we are getting into this mode that of course they are the masses, you can say that, and they take it, this information to others. So our focus should be more on the SBCC component, IEC related things. So we are to a smaller scale, you can say that yes, of course we are contributing on this. But one request from your side, ma'am, that this convergence mode, what we said, that we, though we try to bring couple of departments together, there are allocated fund in these departments, but the problem is while discharging these things, it becomes really problematic that who will take care of what component about the activities side. So that may be as a, I mean, some of the things with your rich experience you can highlight on those directions which will help us to carry out our activities.
Can you use the Home Science College,
Yeah.
Food and Nutrition Department,
Okay.
in your effort to
Okay.
increase your capability?
Sure, why not?
Give them MSc dissertation or PhD dissertation, where they go into the villages and actually convey what is a balanced diet, how much should be, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, this is one of the good point, I think.
Yeah,
I noted.
I think that, I am sorry to say, but that home scientist is a very valuable resource which is not being used. they are not being used.
Ma'am, this is Kadirisan. If I remember, I think 7-8 years before, NIN has done a lot of model nutrition gardens in schools. I think in the Swahili Andhra Pradesh government. And we are also doing a lot of experiment pilot mode in Medakanda. How much is the replicability, ma'am? Is it still growing? I think most of the things as in experimental stages in schools, it's closed.
Tell you what my experience, our experience with nutrition gardens in schools was. Only in one school it worked. In other schools, during summer there was nobody to water the garden. So the gardens just disappeared. So they didn't like the idea of vegetables coming from the garden. And they were probably making money out of it. So they didn't support us at all. But in one school, it is still working. Yeah. So school gardens is something which we did one project called Feeding Minds and Fighting Hunger. This was for school teachers. And for 3 months, we got permission and the teachers came and we educated them. It had a tremendous, one school initially which came out top. At the end that school didn't work because the science teacher left. But the other schools where the science teachers were there, it had tremendous impact on children's knowledge. We educated the teachers and asked them to weave in nutrition component in their teaching. And then we assessed the children through drawing competition and it had an impact. I find radio is still doing a lot. I'm still a radio user. So I find radio, there are still lots of nutritional and health programs.
I just wanted to ask a little bit about social engineering. You talked about social engineering as a way to address malnutrition. So do you have any examples of what kind of social engineering one can go for? Because in my understanding, the other party that has to be engineered to take the food in right amount and right quantity is almost ready if they're not children, but they're not being able to afford that. Even if they know what to eat, they cannot go and buy that thing and eat it.
No,
So
yeah,
what kind
that
of
constraint
engineering?
economic constraint I already brought out. When I said social engineering, very often the women, mothers, knowledge will change, but there will be a grandmother, a mother-in-law. So we have meetings with mother-in-law, grandmothers. Then panchayat. Now we are going to have one meeting with sarpanches. So when I say social engineering, is to educate the community at large